Hello everyone, Michael here. This video will be a quick introduction on how to use Calysto World. First, I highly recommend to use the documentation side by side when you start to learning Calysto World. The first page, you have the quick start here, and you have all the dependencies you need. To add them, you need to go into plugin right here. You have a few ones like Scriptable, editor tool. So you take those two ones. You have PCG, the content generation, and then the other one here, geometry script, and then landscape patch that you can have here. And then if I follow the list, geometry script, that is very useful too, right here. And then after that, you have to do one small modification inside the project config into your game. Then you go inside config and you have this default engine ini to add one line. This is this one, the system setting, the grass map. It is written in the documentation, so you can just take it, copy, and paste inside your project ini. And finally, this is optional, but you can add the runtime virtual texture. There's some additional feature that comes with it. So you can go into project setting, virtual, and you have enable virtual texture support. There's also an integration with the water plugin that you can use. So you can add the water here with the water advanced. Now let's add Calysto World into a new scene. First thing that I'll do is to create a new landscape and then select the landscape material you want to use. In my case, I'll use my own landscape material, but you can use any landscape material you want. Now I hit create and it is black right now because there's no layer fill. So I'll just create a new weight layer for the first one. It's already created because I did some tests before. So I'll just select the one that I've created. And then I'll create another one here for the second and one for the no grass. A non-weight, sorry, like this. Now what I can do is just fill the layer and the whole world will be done with the first layer. Then second thing, you can go into the blueprint folder, right click on the Calysto World editor, then run the editor utility widget. Now a new UI will appear along with a box in the middle of the world. I'll just go back in selection mode. This box, basically, it tells Calysto World where you want to modify the world. So if I just go straight away, I'll take some mountain, remove the terrace and do some plain, and then just do generate world. First time it will ask if you want to add the patch layer and you want it, so complete. And then now it's already working. So this little square here is the work zone. You can move it and scale it to do whatever you want. So again, let's say I want to work in this area and I just want some plain. Or if I just want some mountains, you'll have a different effect. And then I can clear all the stamp in the world, or also I can just set it back to the middle. And if I want to do the full world, and then generate world. If I want to fill it a bit more, I could increase the number of stamps, so let's say 15, and then increase the size of those stamps a bit now that I want to do the full world. But now it's only mountains, so it's a bit exaggerated. I'll just reduce that, add back some stamp, and there we go, we have something different. Now something else that we can do is to add just a simple plane. I will reset it, greatly increase the scale, and then a water material, water ocean that you can use. I will raise it a bit. There you go. Now that your world is created, you can already start to draw some biome in it. So first we'll go into the selection mode, scriptable tools, and then you have this little new UI with some new tools. You can click on the biome. And you can see here, you have this row name. We only have one biome right now, it's the forest. And later on, I'll show you how to add new biome that you can create from scratch. But just to showcase, I'll just draw in the world like this. You see those little green dots. I release, and then we have our first biome. So now we can add the new GPU grass system in the world. So there's two ways to do it. It will depend on how your world is set up, if it's using word partition or not. In this example, it's not using it. It's a bit faster, but I'll show you both ways. So first, when you open the Calysto World for the first time, it will automatically add your Calysto World inside your world. So this is where all the logic for the spawning is made. In this case, I'll now run the editor again, but this time I'm going to the detail mode. You have this set detail bound. It only works if you're not using word partition, but I'll just click on it and then toggle show details. And you see already the system is working. And if you're using word partition, it's slightly different. All you have to do is inside this Calysto World, you have this box here. So you can see it cover the whole world. Actually, it's not this box that we see, it's this one. Yeah, this one, that's the real box. So it covers the whole world. You just need to scale it to cover the whole world. So you can either scale it here or using the box extend. After that, you can do the toggle show detail. The toggle show detail, it just allows you to see it in the editor. So if I toggle it off, hit play anywhere, and the grass will appear. There you go. Let's create our own biome. The first thing that we'll do is to duplicate the database of the biome itself. So we can just duplicate this DT biome and then call it my biome. So this is what will be holding all your database. So in this example, you have this forest here, and this is exactly the demo forest you can get when you click on biome here and this one. So they match. So now let's create our own biome. The first thing that we'll do is to duplicate the database of the biome itself. You can just duplicate this DT biome, call it my biome. This is what will be holding all your database. You have this forest here, and this is exactly the demo forest you can get when you click on biome here and this one for demo forest. And there you go, I have my database. This is where I will have the PCG biome to use, the vegetation setting, and then detail and so on that I'll show you a little bit later. So now that I have my biome here, I still don't see the forest now because it needs to be connected to the master all biome. So this is what's storing all the biome and connecting to the tool. So all I have to do is to add my biome Calysto, and you see now demo forest just appear here. The reason I'm doing this is mostly because when you update, you don't want to overwrite all your work and then lose it. So my update will only overwrite this database here. So all you have to do is to add back your own content in it. Now that this is done, if I look here, I have my demo forest now, and I can already start drawing it. And there you go. So now let's create our first biome. First thing that I'll do is just to disable the grass. And if I click on this biome here, you can see the database here. So you have the vegetation, the details is for the grass, and then attached detail are for the detail attached on other objects. So if I open the first one, this is all done on the CPU with collision. So those are all the vegetation to spawn. So you have first the big rock. You can set it to force to lookup. This is mostly useful for the tree. If I disable it or enable it, it will set the tree straight. So in this case, it's better to keep it like this. You have the transform minimum and max if you want to have a small offset. So it's randomized between 0 and minus 100. The rotation, you can set up the scale randomly. The min height and max height is in world level. Let's say I increase. So you can see here that the tree will not spawn inside the water because I have set the height for this number here. So if I lower it a bit, you can go a bit lower now or increase it. So you can have multiple biome with different level. You can even just set some vegetation near the water by using just the height. You have, of course, the max slope, the cluster strength. So the cluster, just to show you, it's basically a noise that removes vegetation inside it. So if I increase the strength, you can see the noise in a better pattern now. I'll just change the light a bit. And then if I decrease, you can see it start growing back again. And then those are different noise level you can set to have more control on the behavior. So I'll just set some very small noise like this. So you'll see the pattern a bit better now. If I increase the density, and now you can start to see a clear pattern. I'll just play with the strength again. And now if I increase it back, you can see those patterns. So it's a way for you to get more control on how things are spawned. And then you have this bound multiplicator. This is used to set the collision between objects. In the case of a tree, it's very important because the bound of the tree will go from the top left to the top right, so it's relatively large. I may want to have some grass under it or rock that would spawn into it, so I set the spawn to something a bit smaller. So if I increase the bound, imagine like an invisible radius around the tree, so the default value will be 1, and then you can see I can't have a lot of tree because they are very large from one to the other and nothing spawned under them. So if I reduce it to 0.5, I can have more density now. You can drag and drop multiple mesh in one go. So if I want, I could select multiple branch and then just drag and drop here and they will be added. So it's a lot faster this way. And also, for those familiar with Photoshop, it works like a Photoshop layer. So higher in the database and the higher the priority will be. So I have those three here and then the big rocks in first priority. So if I swap them, the tree will spawn first and then in the remaining space, the rock will spawn. So it's changed the behavior a bit. If I increase the strength of the cluster to remove some, the rock will only be able to spawn in the remaining space. If I crank up the rock, I'll go a bit bigger now. And then maybe reduce their bound so I can have more. And then if I swap them again, you see now that the rock have priority and then the tree will only spawn in the remaining space. I'll just reduce the density of the rock and I should have more tree because of that. So now let's create a new biome from scratch. First, you have to go into the content browser, right click and do data asset. And then now it asks which kind of database you want to create. So in my case, they all start with PDA, and then you can look for PDA vegetation Calysto. Select it, and I'll call it my demo vegetation. So if I open it, it's exactly like the other database, but this one is empty. So now what I'll do is go inside my biome Calysto that we've created earlier, just open it, and then in my demo forest, you can see here, I can add my demo vegetation that I've just created. So I'll create this one. It's already in the database now. Now I can draw my new biome already. So if I go into biome, demo forest, and just draw something, and you have it. We have our biome, but of course it's empty now because we didn't add anything. But if I click on this biome, and then go into the, did I click the right one? Okay, yeah, this one. So you have my vegetation, demo vegetation. I will open it and then just add some new content in it. So inside the vegetation, I will call it big rock like I did with the first one. I like to have them as the first one. And then I'll just go inside my meshes, take a bunch of rock like this, drag and drop. And already we have some result. I can randomize the size a bit, reduce the density, increase the cluster, to remove them in batch, like this, reduce the density again, and then if I want to set up some tree, I'll just go like this, tree, go into my folder, get some tree, and just drag and drop like this, and there you go. And just like before, the bound multiplicator is like the collision between each tree. It's too huge for this one. I just want the collision of the trunk mostly, so I'll just reduce it a bit, somewhere around 0.4. And there you go. It starts to look a lot better already. The size a bit. And finally, let's add a last layer for some young tree that's spawned in the remaining space. So I'll just get those spruce right here, add them, and there. They take the remaining space. I will reduce the bound multiplicator again and maybe increase the scale a bit. And there you go. We have our first biome created. So if I save this and then just draw another one, I'll go in this corner here. So scriptable tool, biome, my demo forest. I'll just do this like this. And now they spawn in the water because I didn't set the height. So I will just open the database again and go with those three and set it to something like 350 because I know it's around that region, maybe a bit lower, 310 maybe. And I'll just set it for the small tree, the same number, and there we go. It's all set. So now let's create a new detail system to cover the world. First, I'll just lower the light a little bit. I will open Calysto World and just toggle back the details. So we'll change the grass right here. First thing that I need to do is to create a new database again. So right click, data, I do PDA, and then those are the details. So I create a new PDA detail, my demo detail, and there's two types of detail we can place. There's one you can set per biome and then one for the main world. So what I do is just switch up the one in the main world. In order to do this, you have to go into Calysto World and then you have this detail here. You can see now my demo detail is here. Something very unique with those details is that they don't update automatically because there's some work that I have to do behind the scene. So I've made a little button that is update all biome. So I will just change this one. There's nothing for now, it's okay. And then do update all biome. This will update the mesh for the grass. I will open my empty database. Of course, there's nothing. So we'll just add my first grass in here. Mesh, I'll take some grass clump like this. Those four will be good enough. And there's still nothing because I need to update all. Like this, and now I start to have some grass. Again, you have all the same setting that I've shown earlier with some difference. So I'll just set up the scale, crank up the density a bit, reduce the cluster contrast and threshold. This is what's removing. Actually, I can disable them completely, so now they'll just fill everywhere. And then I'll just add a bit of scale, reduce it a bit, the max slope, the alignment strength. It tells the tool if you want the grass to look up, but it's like a multiplicator. So if I do this, I'll have some small different result. You see that I'll get some slope somewhere. You see that the grass will always look up no matter what when it's set to 0. But then if I increase a bit, it will get closer to what direction the landscape have. So for the grass, usually it looks better when you set it around 1 or 0.9. You have this use cluster, so it's the same feature that we had before with the cluster, but you have 3 layers of detail, the macro, mid, and micro. You have this cluster scale influence. This is what's changing the scale of the vegetation already. So if I set it to 0, it's the same randomized scale that we have above here, but if I just increase the threshold a bit to have some noise, you can see the noise are starting to appear. I'll just continue a little bit like this. So now you have some clear cluster. If I crank up the cluster scale influence, what it does, the vegetation inside the middle of the cluster will be a little bit bigger than the one outside the cluster. So it really affects the scale a lot. You can always offset that with just a little bit of scale. So you could have those big clump of grass, and then again I can create a new layer, add the same grass again, and grass full for this one. This one would be grass clump. I need to do the update all biome again. Now they can spawn, and they will spawn in the remaining space. So I'll just crank up the density again and remove the use cluster, and now you can see it start to fill the remaining space. So now you have those bigger clump of grass with the other one to fill up a bit. Quickly, I'll just add a last layer for the flower. I'll take the demo flower that I have. I'll go with those big clumps. And I want the flower to have priority over the grass field. So I'll just make sure to drag this one above and then update our biome again. And now we can have those little details spawning a bit everywhere. I'll just reduce again the cluster scale influence because it's really reduced the scale. Increase the density because I like that. The scale a bit. And now I'll just increase the cluster threshold here to create some more detailed clump. And there we go. We have the same shape at the old clump because they have the same setting here. So I'll just randomize them a bit like this. And now we have more detailed clump and some grass to fill everything else. You also have more control on the detail density and the spawning distance. So you can see here I have those grid far behind. Maybe this is not really what I want. You can also customize your own material, but in this case we just set the grass a little bit further. In order to do this, you can click on the Calysto World here. You have this PCG runtime. This is where I hold all the logic of the GPU. And if I open this graph here, PCG runtime, you can also find it here. You have another setting here. If I click anywhere to make sure I don't select any node, and then on your right, you have this iGen default grid size. So for now, it's set to be very close, but I can set it to a bigger grid like this one. So if I change it, you'll see the spawning is a lot further now, but the density really decreased. It's normal. We'll fix that later. The reason why the density is not the same is because the GPU is set to create a set number of points per grid. So since the grid is 4 times bigger, that means the density is 4 times less dense. So I can go even further and go very far with the generation. Let's go out and for this demo. So this is for the generation distance. And then inside, you have this PCG ground detail. This is all in documentation, by the way, so very easy to find. You have this PCG ground detail generator. If you double click and go in it, you have this adjust detail density, and you have here the number element. So if I just add a 2 here, the density is increasing slowly. Let's go with 6. So you see it's getting more dense now. Let's go ahead with another one. And there you go. Now you have something very dense. I'll reduce it a bit. There's also a collision between the grass and detail. So you can see that there's not a lot of grass spawning inside the flower because I cranked up the number and they consume the area, we could say. So I would just do a small adjustment going back to this BP Calysto World and inside my new detail. And I just want to reduce the density of the flower a bit. So what it's doing, it's mostly removing some flower in here and then filling it with grass. So yeah, so now I can go back again, PCG here, and maybe increase the density again. Just a little bit, like this. And there you go. I like it now. So if I hit play, it just takes a second to load because it's very dense and far. But now you get all the density you want. You can go very, very far and still have some good performance. I really like how it looks. You can also attach detail on static mesh or even on mesh spawned via PCG. So the way to do this is to add the tag attach detail, and this will tell the tool that it can attach some details on it. Note that this only works inside a biome and not when it's outside. Something else that you can do, if I look at the database of this attached detail, it's always the same workflow with the database. So if you look at it, there's a use color filter you can set to true or false. And then you have 3 colors, red, green, and blue. So basically, you can paint a mesh to tell the tool if you want this area to be spawnable or not. So here's an example. There's a mesh paint tool here. And if I select the static mesh, you can see 2 colors. So right now, the grass is set to only spawn on the red. And then you can just click on paint, set the color you want. Let's say I want some green. I'll just set this to 0. It's green now. And then I could set something else to be green right here. And then set this one to green. So it's up to you, and you have the choice to either only change the paint on this static mesh in the world, or you can do 2 mesh. So by doing this, it will save on the mesh itself, and every time you add a new mesh like this in the world, it will have the same setting. So I hope the tutorial helped you out. If you want more content like this, make sure to subscribe and feel free to join us on Discord. The link will be down below.